It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and we're taking a look at the films of 4th of July weekend 2001, July 6th to be exact. We got 3 movies to look at, so let's go ahead and jump on into it. We'll start off with the biggest new release of the weekend, which is the family comedy Cats and Dogs. You wouldn't believe that this is the same guy that would completely ruin his entire career 4 years later with Son of the Mask, but Cats and Dogs, this is one of those ones that sounds like a terrible idea on paper, sounds like it should be another C-Spot run, or it just feels like a film that you get what you see, but no, you actually get a whole lot more than you would think from it, but it works in its favor. So you have a story here that centers on the relationship between cats and dogs, depicting the relationship as an intense rivalry in which both sides use organizations and tactics that mirror those used in human espionage. So it's a spy comedy. It's kind of like the equivalent of Kids Next Door. Instead of the kids versus the parents, it's the cats and the dogs, because they're both rivals. And it's a really funny movie, man. It's one of those ones that really does come out of nowhere. You don't expect a whole lot from it. You expect it to be like kind of a silly, over-the-top silly comedy that's not really that clever or funny, but it's actually a lot more clever and a lot more funnier than you would give it credit for. And it helps that you have the writers of Bad Santa, John Requa and Glenn Ficarra, who put this together. And a good cast overall here. Jeff Goldblum, Elizabeth Perkins, a voice cast that includes people like Tobey Maguire, Alec Baldwin, Sean Hayes, Susan Sarandon, Charlton Heston, John Lovitz, Joe Pantoliano, Michael Clark Duncan. Just a fun idea overall. The CG work overall actually surprisingly holds up pretty well, all things considered. I mean, I was actually really surprised that it did hold up as well as it did. And again, same director that completely ruined his career 4 years later with Son of the Mask. Like, what the hell happened between this movie and that movie? It's just like, I don't know, man. I do not know, but hey, it's a funny movie, man. Sean Hayes has a ton of fun in this. The writing is very funny. There is a lot of fun, clever ideas overall. Like I said, the visuals still hold out very well. It's a really good movie, man. It's one of those movies that definitely, I would say, yeah, it looks like it's what you think it's going to look like on paper, but it is actually a whole lot better than anyone I think would have given it credit for. It's actually a very smart film, a very fun film in general. I was actually even more surprised that I actually kind of like the sequel, too, Cats and Dogs, The Revenge of Kitty Galore, because it's just like, it's coming almost 10 years after the first movie. There really is no reason to make a sequel after that, because pretty much everybody forgot about the original Cats and Dogs by that point. And that one's surprisingly made for a fun movie as well. We'll eventually get to that one, but that's another one of those ones where it's just like, where the hell did this come from? Like, it's a concept that is actually very funny in general and works a lot in this particular movie as well as the second film. I recommend it, Cats and Dogs. It's a much better movie than anyone would have given it credit for, honestly. So, with that said, let us move on to our next movie, and that is another comedy, and that is Scary Movie 2. They didn't even wait a full year to get the sequel out, and here we are with Scary Movie 2. You have Cindy Campbell from the first movie, played by Anna Faris, as well as a lot of the characters who died off in the last movie. Regina Hall, Marlon Wayans, they all come back in this because why not? It's a horror movie. They're all invited to spend a night at Hell House with this guy, Professor Oldman, played by Tim Curry. He's convinced them that this is for a school project, but the night won't go past quickly. You have people like Master Kane, played by Richard Moll, who's long dead, but still plans on enjoying himself, especially with Alex Monday, played by Tori Spelling. When things really start getting bad, the gang must find ways to work together to capture the ghostly menace, and you got your parodies here, too. The plot is clearly a parody of stuff like The Haunting and House on Haunted Hill. There's a lot of parodies of, like, Stigmata, The Exorcist, What Lies Beneath you see there. And, of course, you got to throw in some comedies, too, like Dude, Where's My Car, Hollow Man, Charlie's Angels. I mean, everything you can ask for and then some here. But, yeah, this is a film that, it's like I said before with the first Scary Movie film, I was never a fan of these two movies, the first two Scary Movie films, even though the Wayans are all over this film. I think they are very funny people in general, and I think they do make a lot of funny material. These movies just don't really cut it for me. The first movie I thought had some good moments to it. There are some good moments in the second one, too, but not as many as you think. It's a typical kind of comedy sequel. It feels like it's kind of an obligation because the first one was such a big success. They had to make a sequel. They had to rush it out quickly. And the Wayans even made fun of it, too. the decline in their version of the decline in quality with a haunted house, which I don't know. I would rather take any of the other ones after any of the scary movie films that the Zucker brothers did over a haunted house easily. And like I said, man, I like the Zucker ones better than the Wayans ones. That's just my style of comedy, man. I grew up with the Naked Gun movies, and those are the ones those are the ones I always go to. Scary Movies 3 and 4, not Scary Movie 5. Scary Movie 5, yeah, you can keep that one yourself, but I don't know. Like, there are moments in here that are funny. There are legitimately good laughs in here, but they're very few and far between. And the jokes that they have here, kind of what you expect are going to happen. Like, you see a joke and you think, oh, I wonder what the payoff's going to be with this, you know, that type of stuff there. Like, you could see it coming from a mile away, and it's just kind of like, it doesn't really have the same ebb and flow as the last movie did. But after this, at least for me, we go to the good stuff with the Zucker brothers coming into play here. So that's Scary Movie 2. So on to the last movie we have here, Jet Li starring with Bridget Fonda in Kiss of the Dragon. Very interesting movie for a number of different reasons. You have Jet Li playing a police officer from China who comes to Paris to help the Vice Squad apprehend a Chinese drug lord and his unknown French connection. The French connection is Richard, who's played by, let me just double check here to see, Chiki Cairo, I think is. Now, you've seen him in a bunch of stuff before, but he is the head of the Vice Squad, and he intends to kill the drug lord that framed Jian. Jian ducks a bullet and escapes with a tape of what really happened, but chances that Jian turns to this girl named Jessica, played by Bridget Fonda, a U.S. farm girl who is one of Richard's hookers, for help. She has her own problems, including the fact that Richard had her daughter locked in an orphanage to keep Jessica on the streets and silent about his activities. Can Jian protect Jessica, rescue her daughter, and give Richard the kiss of the dragon? One of the most notable things about this particular movie is that Jet Li wanted to make these fight scenes to be more realistic. So there is not a whole lot of CGI and wire work than you would usually see in movies like this, like stuff like Charlie's Angels and The Matrix. It is notable for being one of the few action movies where the action sequences do not use any CG or wire work, with only 2 exceptions, and only one of them had wire work. So on that front, this makes this movie pretty impressive for the time period, since we were seeing a lot more movies using CG to make the action sequences look cool. And the action sequences do look pretty cool in here. And of course, the bigger thing that came out of this is that this is the last film that Bridget Fonda did before she eventually, well, she did a couple of TV movies, but this was the last big movie that she did before she eventually sort of retired from filmmaking after she married Danny Elfman, which, it's hard to believe. It's been over 20 years since she's been in a movie, man. And I don't know, like, she went on to go raise a family, so more power to her. I mean, I kind of wish she was in a better movie, because she really does not really add a whole lot to this movie in general here. I feel like they brought her in here because Luc Besson did Point of No Return, which was the La Femme Nikita remake back in the 90s, which was fine for what it was, but it really paled in comparison to the original La Femme Nikita. And this movie in particular has the best things about it are the action sequences. They are very well done. Jet Li has a lot of charisma to him. The cast overall is very good. But the film itself is just kind of bland. It's kind of been there, done that before. You know, we've seen this kind of story done many, many times before, and nothing really new or different comes from it except for the action sequences in general. Like, if you're going to watch the movie, the action sequences really are the things that make this so special. But other than that, though, the film itself is just kind of like, I can't really say it's a great movie in general, but I would say, like, if you're going to watch it for the action sequences. The action sequences really are the thing that make this work as well as it does. But other than that, though, there really isn't a whole lot more I can recommend about this movie per se. Like, it's fine for what it is, but it definitely felt like it could have been better with a better storyline and a script to work with. So, but yeah, the action sequences really do hold out in this one. So that's why I would say I would recommend this just for the action sequences. But other than that, though, Kiss of the Dragon isn't really all that much, really, the more I think about it. But and it doesn't really help and you would think that not opening up on 4th of July weekend, on 4th of July, which was on a Wednesday, like the other 2 movies, probably would hurt it in the long run. But I guess people bought into it because it did become a successful movie in the long run. So, I mean, hey, shows you what I know. But yeah, that is Kiss of the Dragon. And so with that said, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies. We'll take a look at the weekend of Friday the 13th of July 2001 on the next episode with 4 movies, including Reese Witherspoon's breakout film in Legally Blonde, Robert De Niro and Marlon Brando in the score. And we also have Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within, along with the follow-up to Swingers, Made. So we got 4 films to look at next time, and we'll take a look at those on the next episode. But until then, thank you so much for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the playlist on the next page, check out the previous episode, and also don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this on this channel. So, with that said, I am off. I will see you guys next time, and until then, as always, take care.